What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the WGC Mexico Championship. Last week at the Honda, absolute bloodbath. A lot of guys missing the cut. Even if you made the cut, PGA National chewed you up and spit you out. Really tough event. Kind of cool to see those guys struggle a little bit, but I know probably the vast majority of us got killed. At least we had a little bit of Norin with a high finish. So this week we turn our attention to Mexico, and really I like this, this section of the schedule, right? Like it's all uphill from here, or it's all downhill from here. I don't know. I always get those two confused. But this is the meat of it, right? So like it's this week with the WGC. Then we're gonna have, like before you know it, it's gonna be April and we're gonna have the Masters, right? And then you're gonna get a bunch of majors in a row. So a lot of the guys gearing up for this section of the schedule, which is always pretty cool. So WGC event, a couple of things to note here. It's an invitational. You have to qualify for it. So only 65 guys in the field. No cut. So barring any disqualification or withdrawal, you're playing all 4 rounds. But the big thing here is going to be the golf course that they're playing, which I am about to butcher the pronunciation of, but I believe it is Club de Golf Chapultepec. Don't quote me on that. It's in Mexico City. Couple of things to note here. This is the second year it's been used. Last year was the first time they played on it. So when it was the WGC Cadillac, it was at Doral, so we only have 1 year of course history. And then the big thing that you're going to continue to hear about all week is the elevation. So high elevation in Mexico City. These guys are going to be bombing it all over the place. They're going to be hitting clubs further than they've ever hit clubs before. I think Rory said he hit a 8-iron 210 yards in a practice round or something like that. So they've got to do the math and all that stuff this week. So it should be pretty interesting. So when we talk about course history, remember 1 year at this course. This event's been around for a while. We can kind of look at, similar type fields and similar type formats. But if you want to look at just the course, it's 2017. All right, so let's dive into this. This is my cheat sheet. It's available on DFS On Demand with the rest of the tools that you're going to see here today. The top guys. I'm really interested to see what the ownership is going to play out on DJ and JT. Oh, 2 guys that go by initials. That's cool. Dustin Johnson, odds-on favorite to win. Defending champion in the only year it was played at this course. He's awesome. He's the #1 player in the world. Blah, blah, blah. Justin Thomas, however, coming off the win last week, might steal some of that ownership from DJ. I wonder how this will pan out. Obviously, Vegas thinks DJ's a better play. I think DJ's a better play. But I'm wondering if we're going to get him at 5 to 10% better ownership than usual. Not total ownership, like maybe if he comes down to 20% or 25%, because JT takes a little bit from him, right? I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. It's only Monday. I don't know. But I'm going to keep my eye on that as the week progresses and see if there's a lot of buzz around one of these guys over another. Outside of that, moving down, I think there's it's a star-studded field. You can probably not go wrong with any of these guys, but just to point a little bit of something out here, John Rahm, who had an unbelievable stretch to start the year, 2nd place at the Tournament of Champions. He wins the Career Builder, another good showing at the Waste Management. Finished 3rd place last year at this event. I'm kind of liking guys that did not play last week. I know it's a little bit of a narrative, but what you hear in these interviews a lot are this high altitude, it gives guys like headaches, right? Like your body has to adjust to this high altitude. I'm wondering if some of these guys, and again, I haven't seen their travel plans, but I'm wondering if some of these guys who did not play last week and got there early are going to benefit from this, assuming they got there early, instead of JT, who has to do all the winter stuff last week, all the interviews, whatever, Sunday, fly straight to Mexico, take on the altitude right away. Like, I don't know. It's a little bit of a narrative, but a lot of these guys say that in the interview. So I'm almost like, hey, if you've taken 1 or 2 weeks off, like that might be a benefit here this week. So Rahm, excellent showing last week. He's one of the best players in the world. Did not play the last 2 weeks. I wonder if he got there early. That could be pretty cool. Fowler's always going to be the guy who's like your elite GPP play. When I show the odds, I'll show you that he's kind of undervalued here. He's 16 to 1 to win it. He's $9,800. He is either top 10 or missed a cut in every one of his last 5 events, right? It is what it is. He's going to miss cuts, but he's also going to put himself into contention a whole lot. The fact that he's under 10,000 in this field is pretty good. Justin Rose. Let's talk about Justin Rose, who's someone we've talked about probably quite a bit. I feel like I talk about him a lot in these type of events. You know what? That was a bad thing to do. I should have came to the game logs here. So let's try Rose. All right. Here is Justin Rose. Let's go dating back to August. The Northern Trust. Right? So this was the playoff run, and then a little Euro events, and then the Farmers was the first PGA Tour event he's played this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 top 10s in 10 starts. Did I do that right? 9 top 10s in 10 starts, including 2 wins. These 2 are doubled up because of the way they're categorized, but that's one event right there. Unbelievable run. And then he tees it up for the first time on the PGA Tour this year, and he finishes 8th at Torrey Pines. Yeah, I love Justin Rose. He's always a overlooked DFS option, I feel like. As we come down here, so this is interesting to see. So Bubba, coming off the win, has destroyed this event when it was at Doral, but a 38th in the first excuse me, in the first edition here in Mexico City. That's of note, because when you go through other tools or other guys say, oh, his average finish is whatever, keep in mind 2016, 2015, and 2014, his 3 best appearances were not at this course. So, I mean, Bubba might be fine, but don't be duped into thinking he is like this super course horse, right? So here he is actually right here. So like even my tools will say he is the 4th most DraftKings points per start in this tournament's history. And that is true. But if you look deeper at it and you actually look, yeah, here we go. They were all at, like, his worst finish was here. Like, he's played it 7 times, and his worst finish, I guess outside of this 72nd, was here in Mexico City. So don't be fooled by some of these tools, or if anybody's telling you that Bubba's a great course fit this week. He's a great tournament fit, but not on this course. Moving along here, and I'll kind of jump around a little bit. Where's my man? Okay, Thomas Pieters. So Pieters comes with a 13th place last week. He played really, really well. 5th place finish the last time he teed it up here. The only time he's teed it up here in Mexico City. I know you guys are probably getting sick of like the whole Euro narrative that I played last week. I think someone told me I was an idiot, which is probably true. But I think there is more to this Euro narrative than a lot of people want to give. This week, I think it's interesting because these Euro guys, they play all over. So they play events in Switzerland. They play events in South Africa that are at high altitude. So they at least have a little more experience in calculating the distances, doing things that are very unique to this type of event. They have a little bit more experience in it than guys, say, who played the PGA Tour full-time. Obviously, guys who play the PGA Tour full-time are probably better players in general, but, I mean, keep that in mind. So Pieters is a guy who found success here in the past, plays a lot on the Euro Tour. He's been great in, like, WGC events and majors, and he's coming off a 13th place last week. He's $8,300. Like, that's pretty good. He's 40 to 1 to win. That's better odds than, a lot of his peers here. So keep that in mind. As we can continue to scroll through, Ross Fisher was another Euro guy who found success here last year. Trying to see. Unfortunately, with only 1 year of course history, we don't have a heck of a lot to go off of. There's not a ton of great options. And actually, here's one I'm going to try to do this on the fly here. I do not know how to pronounce his name. Hao Tong Lee. I don't know how to pronounce it. That might be it. He's been pretty good. I have to. His name is causing my sheet troubles here because he's both of these guys. I think when the data comes through, it's a little wonky. So he's actually both of these guys. Is that right? Let's try this. This is the one we want here. Okay. No, this is him. See, this is why it's so confusing. So some databases have his name, I don't know, written differently, right? So this is actually the correct, I'll call him Hao Tong Lee. Okay. So again, primarily a Euro Tour player, but he gets into a lot of these WGC events. He played the Genesis, okay, made the cut at the Genesis. He won the Omega, the Emirates event, right? So that was January. That was a month ago. He was a winner on the Euro Tour. He posts a lot of decent finishes on the Euro Tour. Like here's since November, 4th place here, 13th, 19th, the win. Going back to last year, he showed up at the Open Championship with a 3rd place. Like this dude has played in pretty good fields, and he showed up and he won a month ago. So, I'm not super thrilled to roster him, but this is an event of 65 golfers. Like you're going to have a 10th of the golfers in your lineup. Everyone is, right? So when you're looking for options here at $7,400, geez, it's almost min-priced, right? It's $800 from the bottom. That's pretty good. I can't imagine his ownership is going to be very high. I might throw him in some GPP lineups. Okay. Other than that, we're going to have to get freaky with some lineup creation this week, I think, just to try to fit some of these guys in here. Let's go to the course history, see if anybody else jumped off at us here. Unfortunately, course history is not a super great indicator this week. I didn't mention him, but if you did want to buy back in on Tyrrell Hatton, who absolutely just scorched me last week, he missed the cut. He was one off the number. And he had like a 6-foot birdie putt on 18 to make the cut, and he missed it. But whatever. I might buy back in on Hatton, who I told you last week how great I thought he was, and he finished 10th here last year, so I will probably be a buy low candidate on Tyrrell Hatton. We'll go to the PGA Tour stats here, so I can get out of the way. But let's go to the correlation, like we always do. I'm going to run through this now. Keep in mind, this is only 1 year of correlation, so a lot of these numbers are kind of skewed. Not the PGA Tour stat numbers that you're going to look at, but the stats that popped up are. We usually do 8 years of tournament history and 8 years of DraftKings history. We only have 1, so I ran it with 1, and this is what came off. So strokes gained off the tee. So let's see who's a leader in strokes gained off the tee. No surprise to see DJ Rahm and Fleetwood who've played awesome. But here's Kevin Chappell again popping up. Paul Casey. Does Paul Casey have a good? I finished 16th last year. I thought he had a better finish than that. I wouldn't mind Paul Casey at $8,400. He's a big time player. He shows up here off the tee. Who else? Woodland was a recent winner, right? Cantlay's on there. Okay, sorry. SFDA, so DJ far and ahead, best in the field. Who else is interesting here? Fleetwood pops up again. Fowler's always on this list. Casey's kind of in here, like top 12-ish. Pat Perez is kind of interesting. Pat Perez kind of shows up for the rest of these, right? Like I can see how green these are. Pat Perez is a birdie maker, man. Pat Perez is a birdie maker, plays par 4s well enough. Pretty good SFDA, $7,400. Wow, Pat Perez, that's pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap in a no cut event. I'm sitting here talking myself into Pat Perez as I'm looking at this, right? That's pretty good. Scoring average also popped up. Harmon, Kazire, Woodland's up there again. Webb Simpson keeps popping up, but I don't know if I just don't trust that guy, man. Do not trust him. See, the problem with this is there's not a heck of a lot to go off of here with one year, so not a lot. There's a lot of noise in these stats this week. Here's par 4 scoring. All the big boys are on here. That is no surprise whatsoever. Brian Harmon pops up again. I'm not sure Brian Harmon makes enough birdies to help us out this week, to be quite honest with you. You can see that. Only 23%, 4 rounds in DraftKings scoring. I think that's going to be tough. Phil's always going to be up here. Okay, here's some options. So Perez pops up a lot. So if I had not gone through this exercise, Pat Perez probably would not have been on my radar. Again, the disclaimer is this is only 1 year worth of course history, but Pat Perez popping up all over this. Brendan Steele was kind of interesting. So here's what I think I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to get as many of these studs in as I can, right? Obviously. But I'm going to make my core probably around Pat Perez, Hao Tong Lee, or however you say his name. We'll figure it out in a couple days. Those guys will probably be my value guys. I don't mind Casey in the middle range. I'm going to get as much of DJ as I can. And then who else was there? Rose I always like. Rahm I always like. Oh, I'll buy back in on Hatton. That's fine. I'll go down on that ship, right? We've done it before and it's worked. I'll buy back in on Hatton. And then let's end this with the odds like we always do and see if there's any values here. I do want to point out, I mean, Ricky Fowler, 16-1 to win. You know, this currently has JT at 15-1 to win. That's got to be, those odds have to come down, but still he's what, $1,500 cheaper, $1,700 cheaper. That's pretty good. Noren, again, always going to be kind of underpriced with not being a popular play. Yeah, I mean, here's Casey. Casey even kind of undervalued against Cantlay and Bubba, right? Like, they're all 30-1. The 4 guys who are 30-1, Casey's the cheapest one. He's $500 cheaper than Bubba. I can't see myself rostering Bubba this week under any circumstance. Brandon Grace, South African, who I think is worth a little bit of a flyer because of that altitude thing. And Vegas is much more bullish than DraftKings is on him. So that price is pretty good. Let's see if there's any real bold ones here. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, so I haven't started making rosters yet. It's very likely going to be a stars and scrubs approach because of no risk in missing the cut. I'll rely heavily on birdie makers. I'll rely heavily on guys who can putt. Jordan Spieth had a quote about how difficult these greens are, how tricky they are. But yeah, I'm just gonna try to build as many lineups as I can around studs, and I'll buy back in on Hatton, and we'll see what happens. So there you go. Let me know what you guys are planning on doing. Tweet me. It's at DFS on demand, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. See you.